Helena Bonham Carter is here. She first came to our attention at the age of 19 in the film A Room with a View. Since then, she's appeared in such films as Hamlet and Howard's End. Her latest is the film adaptation of Henry James' classic The Winds of the Dove, and I am pleased to have her here. Welcome. It's great to have you here for your first visit to this program.
Thank you very much.
Tell me about Wings of a Dove and coming to it, and tell me about the story,
Wings
first
of
of all,
a
for
Dove.
those people who haven't read Henry
I'll
James.
tell you quickly the story as far as I can summarize it without giving the whole point away of the movie. I play a character called Kate Croy.
Right.
She's got everything going for her except she's poor.
Right.
It's set in 1910.
Right.
Unfortunately, and equally unfortunately, she has a rich aunt who's highly wealthy, will provide for her, but gives her under the condition that she gives up her lover, who's poor,
Right.
too.
And a journalist, by the way.
A journalist, yes. There's a bit of emotional blackmail in this, but anyway, Kate does this. She gives up. She goes for the money and not the love. Then into her life comes this fabulously wealthy and attractive American heiress. And she discovers after a bit a dark secret about this character. In fact, she's dying. And Kate then engenders this horrible manipulative scheme. Well, it can be perceived as such anyway. And involving Merton, her lover, and Millie, this heiress, and herself. In broad terms, she sort of has the idea that she could encourage the two of them to fall in love, and when she dies, they could have the money. But it doesn't really quite go, or at least the end results end up being not what she predicted.
Well, without even giving it away, we can find out Merton finds out he likes her more than he imagined he might at the beginning.
That is, yes, that is indeed what happens.
Okay,
now,
but we don't, in the end, we don't know.
Story.
No, we didn't tell
no one
exactly.
needs to see the film now.
No, that's true. It attracted you because?
Well, it attracted me. It had to be very attractive to me because, you know, if there's an obvious thing, it's set in 1910. I've done one too many films, perhaps.
I know, you are becoming our classic
yes,
English.
It's a bit of a cliche. I'm a costume drama cliche, and here was yet another one set in that
Then
period.
why do you keep accepting them?
Well, I did. Well, I found it ultimately irresistible because, well, I got this problem. A lot of people sort of feel that about me, and I realised I was doing it to the script, and as far as saying, oh, well, it's yet another one of those, and I thought, well, no, it's a very different kind of character. Superficially, yes, same hair, same costume, but underneath it all, very different character, bit of an anti-heroine, manipulative, in broad terms bad, but then actually in nothing simpler, you know, in broad terms, but, you know, yes, in broad terms bad, but equally a very complex character. I've lost my train.
Well, why were you doing this, and what attracted you, and why would you do one more role like this? You just define why it wasn't exactly like it. And
well, it was, okay, so the character, and then also the fact that it was a very good, wonderful story, and I also love the ambiguity of it all. It was that she's a very morally ambiguous character, and the whole film takes a sort of morally ambiguous stance. There are a lot of movies that, you know, these days, it's sort of cartoon morality. You know where people stand. You know, you know where your goodie is, and you know who your baddie is.
Your critics.
Yeah, of which there are many. Thank you for reminding me at this point.
No, they're not many. Actually like it better than you. You have been quoted as saying it may not be your best role, your best performance. But some of your critics, film critics, who write about film, are saying this is the best thing you've ever done.
Probably. When I say it's not my best work or my best role, it's only because I think the best is yet to come. Put it that way. So obviously they're
we
not
always
in a position.
hope so, don't we?
I hope so. I am hoping, and shall carry on hoping that will be an eventuality. But you know, I'm not a very good judge. I've learned over the years that I'm not my best judge, and also there's a sort of, you know, not everyone has seen absolutely everything that I've done, I suppose. There's sort of odd bits that, you know, were seen by two people in Nova Scotia, Canada, or, you know, there was a television part, you know, that I did on you know, in London. And perversely, it's always the bits, the pieces that often don't get the biggest profile, that often I think I'm proudest of.
You've never studied acting per se.
No.
No acting classes. You didn't go to the Royal Academy. You didn't.
I did a bit out of guilt. You know, I sort of, because I started without any training whatsoever and felt, you know, incredibly inadequate as a performer. So I went off dutifully to my voice lessons and my sort of posture lessons. They didn't work, obviously.
The posture didn't take.
No, it did not take well. I've done, you know, I did them. I don't know what help. it's a difficult one. I think perhaps on stage there's a certain technique which is actually quite obvious, and perhaps you can learn it. On film, I think by doing it, you acquire a technique. But no, I did not go and get, I didn't get acting lessons.
Where was the instinct to be an actress come from? Where did that come from? I mean, it wasn't within the family.
It wasn't within, I don't think it was hereditary, although I must say my grandmother, who was somewhat a sort of a famous liberal spokeswoman, Helena Bonham Carter, I read her diaries the other day, and a throwaway phrase, she said something like, of course I would have liked to become an actress, but that was an unviable, career option. She would have been exactly the same age at all these, ironically enough, all these Edwardian characters that I play. Yeah. But I don't know really where it came from. I think, if anything, I was a rather shy child, and there was an actress friend of ours who seemed very glamorous, and I think she was sort of a bit of a role model for me. And I think a lot of the time I spent during my childhood pretending to be somebody else. So,
with a fertile imagination?
Somewhat fertile, yes, and not as fertile as you'd like to think, I think. But so I think that sort of wish to pretend to be somebody else, and I was always pretending to be somebody else, sort of as a natural extension. I mean, to becoming an actress, but or becoming an actress was a natural extension of that, even.
Did Merchant and Ivory see you in a commercial? Is that what happened?
No, I'd done Lady Jane first, and then Merchant Ivory, I think they asked to see a bit of that. It was the same casting director who cast me my very first thing. Celestia Fox cast A Room with a View, and she cast me in my very first telly job when I was 16.
So she knew of you?
She knew of me. In fact, I played an Edwardian ghost during that telly thing when I was 16, so I sort of started off where I was going to carry on. And that's how they met me. I mean, I was the most apathetic. It's always the way in life, when you don't really want something, you get it. And I had no idea of what the impact of A Room with a View was to have. And when I went up for the job, I apparently was completely uninterested in getting the part, and probably that's why.
And showed it or didn't show it?
Oh, no, pretty much showed it. No, that was...
All right, roll tape. Room with a View.
Oh, good gracious, I knew there'd be another muddle. I'm always right.
It's only another muddle of Freddie's, who doesn't even know the name of the other people.
Yes, I do. I've got it. It was Emerson.
What are weathercocks for Harriers?
Emerson? Well, I hope they're the right kind of people. Yes, Freddie, there is a right sort and a wrong sort.
Yeah, well, these must be the right sort because they're friends of Cecil's.
Cecil?
So you and the other county families will be able to call in perfect safety.
Cecil?
We did meet some Emersons at Florence, don't you remember? The oddest people, Mrs. Honeychurch, the queerest people, but we rather liked them, didn't we?
Emerson's a common enough name.
They're really desirable, Honeychurch. I've just telegraphed to them.
Don't be silly, Freddie. You always overdo it when you play.
You look so very, very young then.
I was very, very young. That's probably why.
Was.
I got major chubby cheeks, too.
Yeah. Were you ever chubby? Were you chubby as a...
I was chubby as a child. No, well, but it was on the face, so I was well covered as an adolescent, yeah.
Well covered?
Yeah, well covered.
Did you like Howard's Inn?
Did I like doing it?
Yes, did you like doing it?
Yeah, no, I loved doing it. No, it was wonderful. It was one of my favourite parts, actually.
Because?
I sort of found her sort of, she's fanatical. And she's somebody fanatical without knowing it. And I always find people who are fanatical about something funny. Because their belief in something or their enthusiasm about something is so completely out of proportion. There's something mad about them, I guess. And I suppose Helen had that. And in a way, I found she was like the first character part that had come my way. Yeah. She was a very clearly defined character. And it was a wonderful book. That book was a pleasure to read, unlike Wings of the Dove, which I never got through. But
you never got through Wings of the Dove?
No, I never got through Wings of the Dove.
Because it just was a tough go.
I found it was an impenetrable novel, And
do you like most of the Henry James novels?
I can't really say because I haven't really read enough of them.
Have you read Washington Square?
No, I've read Bostonians and Europeans. Wings of the Dove I found hard-going, and to the point that I thought, well, you don't have to read the rest because it was very obvious that I was doing
where I was going.
Yeah.
All right. Do you want to do things different? I mean, do you have any sense that because of all these roles, all these characters, that you'd like to do something that would be so totally different?
Sure, I would. And I have done a few things that are different, which have yet to come out.
Right.
So, I play a complete mad character in a contemporary black comedy written by Alan Ayckbourn called The Revengers Comedies. And I'm in another comedy, well, it's not a comedy, it's a contemporary story, wonderful script. If we get it right, it should be funny and moving, about a friendship between a sort of loser in life, who's played by Ken Branagh, and this girl
Does he direct it, or just
he doesn't, no, he's just acting in it. And my character, who's got MND, motor neuron disease, which I think you call ALS here. Right. And that is very different, modern. So they do come my way. I mean, things do come my way, you know, modern bits, modern parts, and sort of, and my agents say, you know, well, they are modern, Hal. And I say, yeah, but they're modern, but they might not be very good. So I'm not going to sort of do something for the sake of, you know, having a different look, or for the sake of doing something modern, because unless it's a good part, unless it's good writing, and something that I feel excited by.
What is it you like about acting, other than sort of living a life of imagination?
Well, that's quite good. I think it's this constant striving for this wonderful moment when it happens, which is very rare, which is when you feel you're taken over by something, I guess, and something that's beyond your control. And for one split second, I think you just lose, I think you lose a sense of self. And I think it happens, you know, when people write, or when people, you know, make cakes, perhaps, or it's, or perhaps not when they're making cakes. But
well,
I think it's to do with, I mean, ultimately I went into the profession. I think there are two different kinds of actors. There's some actors who like to, you know, are natural exhibitionists, or there are people who actually want to, actors who want to hide behind a personality and reveal themselves perhaps through that, but essentially shy. And I'm certainly one of the latter.
You are?
Definitely, yeah.
You're looking to hide rather than being a natural
Absolutely.
exhibition. Then you must have loved it when they came to you and said, there's a nude scene here.
Well, sort of physical, yes. I mean, you know, that's more of an emotional lack of exhibition. But I mean, equally,
it is a natural
I must
segue
say,
for me.
It tends to. Yes, it was a good segue. It tends to. But mind you, I'm not a natural physical exhibitionist either. So, it was no, it was an interesting one to think over, and it wasn't the most natural thing for one to do. It is an absurd thing to have to do, in fact, to
take off your clothes, and there's 6 people looking, and the other person has you taken his clothes off.
Take clothes off, and then have to simulate sex with somebody you don't really know, or you're certainly not involved with.
Well, just tell me about that.
So it is a very difficult thing to have to do. So there's also a problem because you have to, like, on film, there's a sort of natural pressure to make it look aesthetic,
Yes.
So, and it is a hard thing to do, to undress yourself and undress somebody else too.
And simulate sex.
And simulate sex, and do it in a decorous way. And equally not take, 4 hours to do it, because, otherwise the film's just going to be way too long. You sort of get on and do it. What helped me in that scene was that it wasn't just about that, and it was, in fact, the whole emotional climax.
Can I just go back to your family for a moment?
Mm-hmm.
Your dad he's in a wheelchair.
He had a stroke,
Had a terrible stroke.
Yeah.
In a wheelchair.
Yes, that's right. In 1979, yeah.
Are you close?
Very close. I still live with my father. So
I know that. I read
close.
that. I just don't get that. But you've got an apartment.
Nobody gets that.
I know
yeah.
you've got an apartment, right?
Yeah.
But you've never moved in.
No,
sort of.
Well, I have intentions of moving in. Isn't that I've just had it all these years and I've never moved in.
But you're traveling all the time.
Yes, I have, and I've been working. So, and the house was bought last year.
Yeah.
So it's not as if I've had it for years and not moved in.
Okay, so
I
it's
have
only
been
been a year.
It is only been a year.
Yeah.
It's longer than most people, and usually they buy it and then move in.
That's true. That is the normal course of events.
Yeah.
You go buy it and you move in.
Yeah. But since I took 30 years to move out, I've got obviously a different rate of progress to everybody else. So I've been working on it. Things have been done to it, and when it is finished, I will move in.
When it's ready, you move in?
I will move in,
okay.
absolutely.
But your relationship with your dad, is this going to make him sad that you're moving out?
I don't think, not necessarily, not particularly. I don't think he's either way. I think he'll probably miss me. But then, as I said, I do spend a lot of time away, and I'll phone up, and I'm not exactly going very far. It's about 5 minutes away.
You deliberately chose to be in the neighborhood. Yes,
I did.
Now, why do you think you've stayed home? Just because you were busy living your life, not thinking about where you slept?
Partially. There's sort of very pragmatic reasons. I get on with them. I'm lazy. Can't cook, you know,
Well,
can't do all
yes,
those grown-up things.
Right.
I think on reflection, though, I'm sure if my father had not fallen ill when he did, which was when I was about 13, I'm sure we wouldn't be quite as close as a family. I'm sure I would have moved out. But we are very, very, you know, unusually close family, probably through the traumas that we've been through.
The perception is you come from Old English wealth and standing, and perhaps because your great-grandfather was Prime Minister.
Yeah.
Is that a true perception of you?
Wealth and standing. Well, a standing of a
course,
political standing.
He became what?
We're not. I think my father's a pedant, actually, so he's somebody who would like me to set this right. That I'm strictly, as he says, I am not aristocratic. The title came into the family, and the class system is very pedantic, as you know, and so is my father. But the title came into the family because my great grandfather was a prime minister,
Right.
and you get a title when you win a goodbye sort of present, and that's why we have a title in the family. We have a double barrel name, but that doesn't necessarily mean that one's aristocratic or blue-blooded. But you know, we're comfortably off, but we're not particularly.
But your father wanted you to set the record straight.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, done. Let me just run a tape from Wings of the Dove. This is where you tell Merton, the journalist who's going to seduce Millie, who's the heiress, that he will not always want to be with her. Roll tape.
Right.
What if I didn't let you leave tonight? What would happen?
I'd be penniless, cast out of society, and I'd be stuck with you.
Good. Well, we'll open a bottle of something, and in the morning, everyone will know about it.
I'm not good at being impulsive.
Or maybe if you just fell asleep and I didn't wake you up.
I won't
maybe...
fall asleep. One day you'll get tired of me.
I think it'll be the other way around.
No, it won't.
Wings of the Dove. Who was the actor that's there?
That was an actor called Linus Roach, who's a very good young actor. He was in. You might have seen him in something called Priest.
And who plays Millie?
Millie is played by a young actress called Alison Elliott.
And who directed this film?
Ian Softly.
Ian Softly.
Yes,
All right.
and who shall go and see this film. A lot of people.
Thank you for coming.
Not at all, thank
I know
you.
it's at the end of the day and you're very tired.
Thank you
It's
for having
awfully-
me, though. Scrambled brain and all.
We like scrambled brains occasionally.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll be right back. Stay with us.